What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Echo leaf blower, and the problem is that after taking it out of storage, it simply will not start. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this blower. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. We don't have a lot of history on this blower, so we're going in blind. We'll start by looking at the fuel and seeing if it's stale or if it's got any water in it. The best thing to do would be to pour it out so it's easier to examine. After letting it settle down, it fortunately still smelled like gasoline, which is good, and also there isn't any water at the bottom of the jar. Now, even though this is good news, it meant that we had to keep looking for our main problem. Our first small problem is the air filter. Now, it is a bit wet, which means we have to inspect the carburetor for a leak, so it's not the main reason it won't start. If the filter was completely soaked, though, it wouldn't allow any air to enter the engine and keep it from starting. Our second problem is the choke lever, which seems to not move with the choke flap, so this would definitely be the main reason why the engine won't start when it's cold. The fix for this is to replace the filter base so the choke works again. We still need to check to make sure the engine still works, so after putting some fuel into the carburetor throat, let's try starting it. The engine ran for a lot longer than usual, so I wonder what would happen if we put fuel back into the tank and tried starting it again. Now, if it runs fine, then the choke flap was the main reason it wouldn't start, but we need to see how it runs just in case the carburetor still needs some attention. Now, just one more thing, we need to fix this primer bulb, which is cracked. This won't stop us from trying to start it though, as the fuel did make it to the carburetor before cracking. Well, it seems to be running just fine, however, it's not perfect. We still need to look at the carburetor since it seems to be leaking fuel, and also replace that primer bulb. After removing the filter base, carefully disconnect the fuel lines, remove the carburetor from the engine, and then disconnect the throttle cable. The first thing we need to do is remove the plate that covers the metering diaphragm. Now, since it runs fine, I'm sure the diaphragm has not hardened, but it might still need to be replaced since it's not allowing the needle to close properly. So it is soft and pliable, but there are a couple of wrinkles in it, so we need to replace it. Now, metering diaphragms can be bought online for just a few dollars. Now, if you're not comfortable replacing the metering diaphragm, then I would suggest replacing the whole carburetor. The next thing we need to do is replace the primer bulb, and of course if you bought a new replacement carburetor, then this part of the repair won't apply to you. Once the carburetor is back together, we can now reinstall it back onto the engine. Now, another reason why your blower may not be starting is a carburetor that's flooding the engine. If the metering diaphragm is stuck in the downward position, then it won't be able to control the fuel flow through the engine. The engine will flood on the first pull and will not start after that. One last thing before we try and start the blower again is to check that the spark arrestor screen isn't clogged. We have to get to the muffler, but to get to the muffler, we have to remove the plastic cover on the back of the blower. We also have to remove the handle over the recoil as well. The spark arrestor screen is located between the muffler and the outlet, so we have to remove the screws on the outlet just to get to it. The good news is it's already clear, so if you want to, we'll just reinstall it and put everything back together. Then we'll try starting the blower again. Now if it was clogged, we would have to burn the carbon off the screen or just not install the screen altogether. The replacement filter base was difficult to get for this particular blower, so for the meantime we'll just work the choke manually. We need to get it started and running to check and make sure that the carburetor isn't leaking any fuel like it was before. We'll also try running the engine without the air filter as a baseline and then with the filter to see if there's any difference. If there's a difference, then we'll replace the filter. It seems to be running just fine now, and after letting it sit for a few hours, there wasn't any fuel leaking from the carburetor. The filter base did eventually arrive, and now the choke works just like it should. So my question is, would you keep using this blower with a broken choke lever? Would you manually work the choke for the rest of the time you owned it, or would you pay to have it fixed? I know what I would do, but I'm more curious about your answer. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.